Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm taking a look at Sideshow's classic Sabretooth premium format figure. It's basically a fabric-free variant of a piece that they did several years ago of the same character. Let's see how it turned out. Alright, first up, let's have a look at the box art. The packaging itself is pretty neat. Sideshow's graphic arts department, they're invariably on point in terms of box design. They have fun with this, and it shows. Color choices are pleasant and appropriate. The front and back box art itself appears to be line art renderings of Sideshow's house photography, and it works really well, literally drawing a connection between the figure and its source material. The unpacking job is a simple one. Many recent offerings from Sideshow have a design complexity, and it requires a correspondingly complex packaging system to ensure each piece's safe arrival at the collector's door. Given its classic design, they were able to get away with simply protecting each piece with a plastic bag, as you see here. Once you start pulling those pieces out of the box, you start to see the changes that Sideshow made in this particular variant. Starting with that base. The original base had more of an autumnal color palette. It seemed to be more of a forest setting. There was a Wolverine skull, the animal, not the character, resting between Sabretooth's feet. That's gone now. They've replaced the original base with what looks like a wintry mountain base there. It works really well with the rest of the figure. As you pull the claws out, you also begin to see that there's slight modifications to every little piece. First of all, most noticeably, the original, as I mentioned before, had fabric head to toe. It was like he was wearing, spandex, as most costume characters were assumed to do back in the 80s and 90s. Costumes have become more complex since then, and yeah, I think the piece really benefits from the transition to sculpt. In my mind, this one is superior. Right up to it, including this portrait. I mean, look at that thing. They really chiseled out some fine details in comparison to the other. They removed the mask. He's completely unmasked, and God, it works really well. Just look how savage that looks. Color choices were great. Paint is pretty solid. I'm very happy to have this thing in my shelf. Sabretooth, I always thrilled to have Sabretooth show up in the comic books. Wolverine, of course, when I was younger, was my favorite character in the X-Men, and I read every single X-Men comic book back in the Chris Claremont days. His savagery, his ferocity, everything about him just kind of drew me to him, just filled me with a sense of dread. I mean, look at him. He's basically a serial killer. Or mass murderer, depending on his mood. It's definitely one degree or another. Is he Wolverine's nemesis? As it turns out, if you're reading the comics, spoiler alert, not in the strictest definition of the term. That doesn't necessarily make him any less of a threat. Anytime that he shows up, it's guaranteed to be interesting. At any rate, it's particularly menacing. It's going to look fantastic on a shelf. It's representative of one of my favorite characters. It's everything I wanted it to be. Hope you enjoyed the review. Tune in next time. Until then, take care.